it out the way that we wanted to. Well, as far as I can tell, this is not on Facebook yet. I also wasn't able. Oh, now we are. So one of the downsides of this is I can't actually tag you in that post without actually tagging you in that post. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But hey, here we are.
Yeah, I also don't like it. Doesn't look like there's a easy way to mute your microphone without going into your settings here. It's a little annoying, but
That's hella annoying. So right, let's share this a little bit, and we'll get started in a second. Right, share into a group. Watch together. Group name. Yo, 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 all of you that are tuning in already, we're trying new software, so we have no idea what we're doing, but nonetheless, it's a party.
I mean, I don't really know what we're doing when we're using software that we're familiar with either.
Touche. Oh, man. Right, let's see. There we go. Oh, man. One of the downsides of doing any of this live streaming is always that I find it very difficult to gauge the delay of a live. So like, because the comments are instant, right? And so you instantly see the comment, but then 20 seconds will go by until they've read your response. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They've heard your response even.
Yeah, I've had a couple of awkward moments when I was doing stuff with Daryl, for people would ask questions in the comments section, and then I'd answer them and I'd be like, "Oh wait, I need clarification," and then you just have to sit there really awkwardly for about a minute while they type out their thing, and then they hear that you need the clarification. But oh well, it is what it is, I suppose. I wonder if there's actually a I don't know if there's anything where it'd be instant. Maybe if you do it on Facebook directly, it's a little bit more instant. I'm not sure.
I think that Facebook has a bit of a delay on purpose to adjust for quality, right? So if you have some lag or something, they can actually patch that sort of situation. Anyway, really, really excited. We're getting some people on here. We're going to start in just like a couple of seconds here. Talk about sales fails, which is going to be pretty funny because holy smokes, man. I have failed with sales and with hiring salespeople so hard so many times. It's actually kind of comical. Here we go. Now, one of the downsides of using this Be Live is I don't actually know if this is going to be pulling in comments.
Yeah, I have all the tabs open for where it's been shared everywhere, just so we can kind of figure that out. I mean, if someone's watching, please comment so we can figure this out. Actually, I could just comment as well, but you should comment if you're here anyways. Make us feel good about ourselves.
Yes. Hey, there we go. Cuba Libre.
Oh, nice.
That's right. Now the problem is, oh look, we can put the comment on there.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yes, that is exactly right. That is a Cuba Libre.
It'll take about 30 seconds before it gets trolled.
Yup. Awesome. I say we just get started and we just hope that we spot the comments. One of the things I don't know is if a comment happens on a shared version of the video, if it still gets pulled in. So we'll find out. If you're watching this and we're not answering your comment, we're really, really sorry. But we'll get it sorted. Hey, there he is. A valuable contribution and probably a test message, which shows us just about how delayed our stream actually is.
Funny enough, I actually saw it on here before it appeared for me on Facebook.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, let me I just posted a test comment in one of the groups I shared to. I don't know if my own comment will pull through.
Try it.
But yeah, we'll see. I'll also comment. It might not pull my comments through because I attach my Facebook to this either, so it doesn't have a host to this. So let me just put test number 2 in yours just to see.
Yeah. So
okay, so it's pulling through yours, not the shares. So
okay.
I'll keep the shares open.
Cool.
I'll just look at it as well.
Sweet. Well, man, our first live session was pretty fun. Where we were talking about Amazon Geddon and the kind of fallout that had caused. It was kind of amusing because I think for about like the next 24, 48 hours, there was just a disgusting amount of spamming in the groups of people posting like the same stuff over and over. And the opinions and things that were posted were so extreme. Like, I'm pretty sure that there's a petition going around right now asking SEOs to sign a petition to basically get Amazon to change their fees again. So, hey, look, that was an interesting one. Today we're going to be talking about sales fails. And more specifically, really, the hero topic of today's session is outsourcing sales. Jarod and I, we both operate agencies. We've both been in the space for a number of years. We've been hanging out and drinking rums together for a while. We needed some time we needed something to pass the time during this COVID-19 sesh. So we decided to just start these live sessions and see where we go and see how much hate we can attract and take it from there. But yeah, I mean, we've both and I really only learned about this in the conversations leading up to this live event now. We've both failed a lot with trying to hire people to do sales for us, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've hired people on 3 separate occasions to basically try and handle the full process of basically getting someone to say yes to some sort of offer. And 0 of the times that I have tried it have I actually gotten anything from it or anything worthwhile from it. And I think that you were pretty much in the same boat, if not pretty similar.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. But I think that like my mentality is always like everything's my fault, right? And so I kind of find that the problem was always that I tried to get them to do everything, and that's just not going to work because they're never as knowledgeable, as excited about my business as I am, right?
Right, exactly. And it's just the knowledge thing is so important because you can't really expect anybody to handle any sort of objections or go anywhere off of any sort of script if they have no idea what they're promoting in the first place. And then you get up, especially when it comes to digital marketing, specifically SEO, where it's this very technical, kind of ambiguous thing where people don't know, is that you have employed somebody to sell something that they don't understand, to sell it to someone that doesn't understand it either. And that when you look at it that way, it just makes no sense whatsoever.
But the problem is that most of us, especially when we start out, we only really have time for one thing, right? Like, we either have time to do the SEO or we have time to do sales, and it's very difficult to balance both things. And so for that reason, everyone tries desperately to find a solution to get leads flowing for the smallest cost possible, and in the hope that they can basically just keep doing the work and not actually have to do a lot of closing or any of that. And what you just said is totally right. Like, the problem is you go in with the expectation being like, yeah, I can hire a total scrub that has no damn idea of what SEO is to sell SEO to other people. And obviously it doesn't work. What's interesting to me though is when you first started like thinking about hiring somebody else to do marketing for you, like as in to get you leads or get you sales, what was the first approach that you tried? Was it like emailing? Was it like as in hiring someone to do emailing? Was it like cold calling or stuff? What was it?
So, if I remember correctly, it was for cold emailing. If I may have done this after the other one. I can't remember the time. Like it was years and years ago. But it was I had done some cold emailing beforehand, had kind of gotten some amount of results from it, and I felt as though sales being a very weak skill of mine, especially at that time when I was just starting out or was earlier in my days, getting someone to basically try to handle this aspect that everyone was talking about. It was the hot thing, 3, 4, 5 years ago, is that
Mhm.
everybody was talking about cold emailing nonstop. If you created a post on Facebook about something that you were doing on cold emailing, you would get hundreds of engagements from comments and likes, and all they had was likes back then. But it was just everyone was doing it. So didn't feel I was very good at it. So I tried hiring someone. I don't think I worked with them for very long. I think it was a very short-lived engagement because it just didn't work out whatsoever. I think that was one where I just never got a single lead back, and everything
Right.
seemed it felt kind of uh, dirty from the get-go, kind of, because you're just like looking at like the copy that's being used, and you're like, it's going to just be blasted out to a bunch of people, and they're probably just hired some VA to just do some, or they're just using a scraper just to scrape a bunch of businesses. They don't really care about your business because all
Right.
they care about is sales and fulfillment on their own end. So they're just gonna plug you into their tool, scrape a bunch of businesses, blast off your email sequence, and if a bunch of people hate you, it doesn't matter because it's coming from your email address, not theirs.
Yeah, no, 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 totally. That's interesting. I think the first thing that we bought was that was a service that we paid for. I think the first one was we just bought a list of leads.
Hmm.
And these leads were allegedly all inbound leads from a relatively known person actually in this community, who said, "Oh, we're getting all these leads and we're not servicing them at the moment because we're like at capacity or whatever." And us, we were super naive and we were like, "Yeah, we'll pay like $15 or $20 a lead for
Hmm.
those." Started getting in contact with those people, and holy crap, every single one of them was like a total time waster. They were just like, "No, I'm not looking for SEO. What were you on about?" and stuff like that. It was just really bizarre, and it almost felt like a setup and like a con.
Hmm.
Um, and then what was the next thing that we tried? I think we then also hired someone to do like cold outreach. And again, the first few times that we hired people to try and do sales for us was very, very early on. And so at that point, we didn't have the know-how to even like measure what they were doing other than by like the quality of the leads that were coming through. But as time went on, I try to make it a point to hire people to try it out because I keep thinking like, oh, for fuck's sake, something's gonna work and something, at least I can get some inspiration from something. But what it turned out to be is that a lot of the time it's exactly how you said. They're using like Darryl Ross's old overused script, right? And just hammering that out over and over again. When like I remember so vividly him always telling to people like, use this as an inspiration and try to make it your own. Nope, everyone copies and pastes it, right?
I would get emails from people using his script, trying to trying to sell me on it. It was it was something that became very overused very quickly.
Right. Which like, you have to give him props for that because I mean he made that happen.
You know,
Um and but the other thing is like I started realizing too that I had to move away from the sort of the done for you style and just try to get people to fulfill nuggets of the overall process for me, right? So instead of actually saying, okay, I want you to just bring me hot leads, I need you to just do the prospecting and I need you to just do like the emailing and the follow-ups and stuff like that. But man, you know what? I even hired a LinkedIn like sales company recently for a trial, and I wasn't even like, okay, it wasn't expensive, but I gave them $1,000, right? And they were good people, lovely people, but again, like they're doing the same shit. They just send the same overused message over and over again. And now here's the funniest part. So I actually dug up one of these messages, and and so these people were using my LinkedIn, right? So like this is all on me. And I don't know if I can share my screen in here. Let me see if I can do that. Because this shit is just too great. Oh, I'm gonna have to download an extension and stuff. Let's see if I can do it really quickly while we're in here, because this is just too great.
And then
So
is it gonna take you a minute? Because I can continue.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so we also hired a LinkedIn company early 2018, which was got the office space, left my my agency job completely, and went full time by myself. And LinkedIn was before LinkedIn was the hottest thing to do. I think over the past like year or two, LinkedIn's become just like everyone was on it. And this is like maybe a couple months before it really gained all that hype. And we had basically the same exact kind of responses that we hired a company. They did very canned email templates. Or messages. We were able to basically work with them to write the copy. So the copy wasn't too bad, but they were just using Sales Navigator to find anybody that was in the industry that we wanted to get clients from, and just blasted out messages to them, like regardless of the position. So we had salespeople at companies being reached out to, and somebody misinterpreted the intent so badly that the only phone call I got from working with these people was somebody who thought I was offering him a job. Not that I was trying to get. Yeah, so it turns out he didn't even work for the company that they reached out to anymore, which if he didn't update his profile, totally understandable why they wouldn't know that. But I got on the phone with him. It was just this really awkward conversation where he didn't understand what I was on about. I didn't understand what he was on about. And eventually we just kind of figured out that he thought I was trying to interview him for a job. And I was like, no, like I thought we were talking about me doing work for your company. And he's like, oh, I don't even work with them anymore. And so after that, I started looking at who they were actually messaging, and they were just messaging so many salespeople. They were messaging other agencies that just had that they worked in those industries in their profile, and just sending the same message. And so it just got so bad. I was like, we need to stop this. Like, you're just outright spamming people. They're like, hey, it's a volume game. I know it's a volume game, but you're just spamming people. Like I have no doubt. They were just like, hey, you need to stick with it. You will get clients from it. And like, I have no doubt that if we continue at some amount of volume, we will get people. But how many bridges are we burning in the process of being able to generate one client? I mean, here's 5 agencies that we could have maybe partnered with, that their first interaction with me is sending them a message, which is clearly just spam.
Right. Oh man, that is hilarious. So let me see if I can do this. If I can do this share now. In fact, let me see. So, which?
Let's see if anyone's commented.
Oh, crazy! So now I can actually do this, right? And I'm going to go hide. That's strange. Am I back now?
Yeah, you're back now.
That is so bizarre. I don't know how I can do this without. Let's see if I can do it this way.
You can always throw me off the screen.
Yeah, they might just not be able to hear you anymore. I have no idea how I make this one video like, bigger.
Yeah.
Well, look, what I'll do is I'll kick you out for a second, and I'll pull you back in. Well, that literally did nothing. So what I'll do is I'm gonna drop this out. I'm gonna just remove the screen share. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna read it out. Okay. So here's what they did. They reached out to people by simply just adding them, right? Which is okay, whatever. And they would just add like however 100 people a day. And then as soon as they added them, they would use either some manual thing or automated saying, thanks for connecting, name. And I'm like, okay, cool. 5 days later, they would send a message being like, hey, I would like to do an analysis on your website and all of this, right? And basically offering these people a free website audit, which isn't even that terrible of an approach in principle. Now, here is the great thing. So this guy replies with, which of the companies I'm involved in do you suggest would need this, right? So I'm like, this is weird. I look at his profile. He is a senior advisor at McKinsey and Company. He is also on the a non-executive director at BP. So I'm just like, so these guys have such a scattergun approach that they just reach out to anyone with absolutely no clue, right? And the thing that's so frustrating about it is if they did this and then they realized their error and they got in touch with me and they were like, look, John, this isn't going right. We need to adjust this. We need to change this, and then we can get it back on track. Then I would give you the next $1,000 to keep going. You know what I mean? Like but the problem is like all they were planning to do is just like you said, oh, we have to keep this going for long enough until we get someone. Well, you're not gonna fucking get anyone with this approach. Just insane. Have you ever tried an aggressive email approach, like being almost rude to people in your email?
So I've tried, I don't know if rude is necessarily the right word, but I have been very aggressive beforehand, and it has ended up with somebody threatening to kill me, which sounds like a bit of extreme.
Well,
But here's what happened is we were doing outreach to a bunch of contractors. We were just doing like cold email outreach. I spent a ton of time creating like this, what I thought was a great email sequence. And basically the whole point of the campaign was to go, hey, you are right here, your competitors up here, do you want to beat them? And so with the software that we were using, we were running a bunch of split tests. So like our first email, we would split test one email at a time. So there'd be like 3 versions of like the first email, then of the 4 other emails in the sequence would be the same. Now in one of the emails, the phrasing that we would use would be like, hey, right now they're getting so many more leads than you. Do you want to steal their leads? Now, steal their leads was highly misinterpreted for this niche, where people thought that we were somehow illegally breaking into their competitors' offices or hacking their websites or some shit, where they thought we were physically stealing the leads that those companies were generating and then reselling them to this company. So because of this, we got like a bunch of we were sending out about 50 emails a day. So as soon as we started using this, we just started getting like 1 or 2 people a day that were like that misinterpreted, that were like, I would never steal leads from this person, or what you're doing is illegal, or just other stuff that was like, okay, a couple people misunderstanding this. Let's if I'm sending out 50, if let's say 30 are getting opened and 1 or 2 aren't happy with it, let me see what the results are. Now this one person, and kind of backtracking here for a second, what was also very common with this is that because in the contracting niche, a lot of people are friends with their competitors. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, sometimes the number 1 person in the market was like their best friend or like their cousin or something like that. So then what they would do is they would forward that email to whoever I said that we were going to steal the leads from. And then that person would then email me back and being like, hey, you're trying to steal my leads, you're a piece of shit, and all this other stuff. So it's just very, very misinterpreted. And so one of the cases was I emailed a contractor and said, hey, do you want to steal the leads away from, this guy that's winning? It was actually like his cousin or something. And so he forwarded the email to his cousin, and his cousin then posted it on Facebook. And like a screenshot of the email was like, hey, you know, my cousin over here just got this email from this guy named Jarod Spiewak or whatever. You know, this guy's like a piece of shit or whatever, but his Facebook was public. So I found it. I can't remember why. Maybe he tagged me in or some shit, like an idiot. But I found it somehow. I don't remember how I found it. This is a while ago. And I watched the comments come in, and I just checked it because at first I was going to like comment on it, just be like, just to make sure that he knew that I could see it. Or like just like try to diffuse the situation. But people responding to it, they misinterpret it as well, and they were just making it worse. But they were like, this person's trying to steal your business away from you. You know, this person should be hung. You know, he should be murdered, and like all this other stuff. So like people were just like, no, I think it's pretty. I've grown up with the internet, so like people telling you to like kill yourself or like all this other stuff, like it's just, you know, it's not pleasant, but like it's not something that is new to me. So I just had to chuckle about it. But what I did was I just like liked the post so that everyone would be able to see that I saw it. And all of a sudden the comments stopped coming in. But no, that was pretty fun. I tried to find the post, but I couldn't find it because I mentioned it to, I think I shared it with you like a year and a half ago, but I couldn't find it in our Skype thread. But yeah, that was the most extreme situation I've ever been in, where something was just so horribly misinterpreted that trying to help a business rank higher on Google ended with their competitor having friends that threatened my life. So yeah, that was a fail.
That's
just a little
absurd. We had something that didn't go quite as sideways, where what we would do is we would send out an email. We would send it out to this cluster of businesses. So again, like 10 roofers in a particular small town, right? And then we would send out this email being like, hey, I've sent this email to these 9 competitors of yours, and I'm only going to work with one of the businesses in this area. And like basically the first one that like takes the deal is going to win here, right? Oh my God, that backfired so hard because like you said, they're all mates. They all like, that guy gives me lots of work and stuff like that. And we were just like, we're really sorry. Like we did not anticipate, we thought that people were, you know, trying to compete. And so it just totally backfired. It was very, very nonsensical. We did a cold calling campaign with a cold calling company. That was last year, I think. Really, really cool company. We hired them out of they were in the States, on the East Coast actually. I think they're really close to where you live actually. And the whole idea was that we wanted to see if we could get agencies to test SEO Butler services so that for free, like we would give them free content so they can try it, see how awesome the service is, and then become long-term clients. Because to me, it was like, I can't remember what it was. Maybe you do. I remember telling you about it. It was like $15. No, it was less than that. It was like $7 or $8 a call or something like that, right?
I remember that I was in Brighton at the time, and we took the call together when you were talking to them. And yeah, their pricing was like, the company just seemed like amazing. I remember, I think you found him originally like on Fiverr or something, and he just happened to have like a fairly sizable company that was like very legit.
Yeah.
But no, I remember like everything seemed very kind of up to par with what they were doing.
For sure. And so, you know, is actually, I've recommended them a bunch because I think that if it wasn't for our, like the service that we're offering, it could actually work really well, especially if someone's in like, if actually somebody is in like a home services niche or something like that. Anyway, so we hired these guys, they build a script out, the script's okay, they get to calling, and the only thing, like they're literally trying to call agencies and give content away for free. You would not believe how hard that was. We had, I think, 3 people bite out of 100, and none of those 3 people ever claimed their content.
Like they, so you said, here's, all you have to do is like contact me or like fill this out and we'll create the content, and they just never did it.
Yep. So basically the idea was the cold caller would call them, give them like the fast pitch of like, we're going to give you free share. And then all you need to do is just agree to like a 10-minute phone call, or an email to give us the details so we can give you the content. Like, it was really, we were trying to make it a no pitch, you know what I mean? Like, let us give you some content, and if you like it, you keep using us. If not, then oh well, you know. And not like all three of those people were like, yeah, get John to give us a call on this day, this time. Not one of them picked up their phone. I was so mad. But hey, look, I mean, ultimately, I think that there's a lot to learn from these failures. And you know, I've honestly, I've tried the same that we tried for LinkedIn. I tried once with a Facebook person. The amount of complaints I got from friends getting spammed to hell with like dumb posts and stuff. Oh, and the same on Instagram. There was a period where loads of my friends started noticing me posting really annoying inspirational quotes for a while. Obviously, that wasn't me. And you know, I was just like, yeah, you can have my Instagram and you know, go crazy on it. And man, the some of the quotes that they used as well were pretty horrendous, and so I was just like, this is bad. Like, we, you know, this is not okay. And like, some of them actually got good engagement too, you know. But I think they got good engagement for the wrong reasons. They got good engagement because they were hilarious. And they would obviously like use my pictures, right? So they would like throw my picture into like Canva or something, and then put the cheesiest overlay on it, and then just like some like, you know, Grant Cardone 10x quote on there, and I was just like, oh fuck.
Just your face with being poor is a mindset.
Like honestly, that was basically it. Yeah, no, very, very embarrassing, and it's a huge fail. Out of all of the strategies and stuff, what was the one that you thought was gonna like be the most likely to work, that then failed?
So something that I try a lot to do with my writing is I'm a big fan of comedic writing. So like anytime I write something, I try to make it short. I try to add a couple jokes in there, try to make it very lighthearted. And so I thought I would try that approach with my cold emailing. Is that I started adding a lot of comedy to my cold emails, just making them very like direct. Like one of mine was if I had sent somebody 4 emails and they've opened the emails but they've never responded to me, then I would automatically send them an email saying something along the lines of, "Hey, you haven't responded to me. The only reasonable situation I can imagine that has happened is that you must have been attacked by a wild bear." And then there was a GIF of like this like bear cub like attacking this guy's leg. And so then it went on to like, I hope you have like a swift recovery. This is super serious. Once you're out of the hospital, let's get in touch and we'll like move forward. So, and what would happen is, so like that entire campaign is very lighthearted. It's pretty funny. I had a lot of people that would respond back, giving me kind of praise for the copy, but I didn't see any change in the amount of people who were interested in the offer when I spent a lot of time creating what looked like very personalized, but also very lighthearted and very self-aware emails. I had an entire thread that was like, "Hey, like cold emailing sucks. I get it." But so people would be like, "Yeah, like I agree with like, oh, this is great copy," but we're still not really getting anything from it. There weren't really an increase of people that were interested in the offer. I got a lot more people saying things like, "Oh yeah, reach out to us in like 3 months, 6 months, etc." So we did have more people that were quote unquote interested. And I was using a CRM at the time where I would be able to set up like reminders like, okay, I'm going to reach out to them then, or respond to that exact email. So like, hey, you told me to email you again in 12 months. It's been 12 months. How do you feel about this now? And sometimes they would just be like another delay. It's just like, oh yeah, I'll think about it. Or they just never respond or whatever. So we got like more interest, quote unquote, but it never turned out to be anything more. We were getting like the same results from just like a mass spam email essentially, as compared to actually putting in the effort to create something that we thought would really work well. So it was a lot of extra time and money, and it felt better to send these emails, but the result was pretty much the same.
That's wild. I wonder, I know that there are people that are really, really good at cold calling. Leon, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but like Leon Sheed has done a
Yeah.
lot of, I've watched some of his live stuff, and he really is a very, very good cold caller. Um, the the thing that I wonder for someone like him is how do you scale that, right? Because like to me, he's a one in a million, right? Like you don't get many people that know the subject matter so well and are such good cold callers both at the same time. And so like him closing a bunch of deals is very likely, but at the same time, like if he ever grew a business where he needed, 4 times the leads of what he can generate, I wonder how he would do that. So that's very interesting to me. But you know, from my perspective, I with when it comes to sales, and like sales sales methodology, and especially outsourcing, I've definitely failed way more than I've succeeded. And I think that there are just a few ways that I've really, really, really found that work extremely well for me. The first thing is a dick move. It's just SEO Butler. Like,
Mm.
I get a shitload of inquiries because of SEO Butler, of people going either, hey, I found you and I don't know what to order. And then we just respond going, well, do you want us to just manage the SEO for you?
Right.
Right. And then the other thing is we have a lot of SEOs that shop with us that are still in the infancy stages, that are working on like, $500 campaigns. They get something in that looks like it's going to be a 3 to 5 to 10K client. And then they contact us and say, hey, is this something that you guys can white label and work with me on? So that's the first thing. I mean, but I think, do I think that everybody needs to do a productized service in SEO? No, don't. It's way too much of a headache. But what does that really represent? It just represents value, right? Like trust and value. So the reason why people come to us and do that is because they've tried our services, and so they've built the trust, and so they're already sold. And the other thing that I think has worked, that's been a really mixed bag, and I know that you've had the same experiences with this, is partnerships. So like what I found with partnerships, so what I mean by that is either salespeople who were SEOs that just focus on sales, or web devs that want to sell SEO, or ads guys that want to sell SEO, is it either works amazingly or it works fucking terribly. Like I don't think that they like I've never experienced it in between. I've only ever experienced the people that are awful at sales and awful at communication, and then the ones that are amazing at both, and that those just run.
Yeah, I've been so back and forth when it comes to partnerships and white labeling, everything like that, because that's kind of how I got a decent amount of my start. Because when I started, um, I would do a little bit of client work directly, but I very quickly got hired by an agency. And then all of a sudden, and for anyone that doesn't know, my start was mainly based off of Upwork. And all of a sudden, there were a ton of agencies that were looking for people. So I started doing a ton of white label. I would say about 80-90% of the money I was making in like uh, 2016 through the first half of 2017 was through white labeling, working with like 3 or 4 agencies at a time. Now, granted, it was more of like working with like 3 or 4 clients per agency. It wasn't a ton of agencies, but I've had some great experiences, some bad experiences. There was times where there was this. I remember this person gave me right away 2 clients at 2,500 a month with like one phone call, which was amazing. And I mean, you know how like ridiculous it is. Where sometimes some they always want to give you only one client as a test, and they want to give you the client that they're most willing to lose. So it's the one with the
Yep.
lowest budget that has the lowest chance of actually getting success. Um, so I was super excited. This person just after one phone call, 2 clients in the same niche that I was familiar with. It was kitchen remodelers, 2,500 a month each. Great, $5,000 a month total. Super super happy at the time. My biggest client, I had nothing even close to that at that time. So we started working together, and this is around the time. At this point, I had recently started reporting on leads and not just like rankings and traffic and whatnot. So we could see the increase in leads, and they were getting about $75,000 worth of leads each lead for them because their kitchen remodeling projects were like $20,000-$30,000 each. So, and they had a very good closer because they were very reputable businesses in their kind of decent areas. So we could see that, they were getting about $75,000 worth of leads through Google search for $2,500 a month, and they weren't happy. And the issue was that there is a disconnect between what we were communicating, or at this time, what I was communicating to the partner and what they were communicating to the client, where the client would be like, oh man, but when I Google this one very specific term, I see myself at number 3, and that means we're failing. I'm like, what the fuck are you on about? Like, I sent you a report where the first thing in the report shows that there's $75,000 worth of leads. The conversation should be, if there's an issue, the conversation should be over lead quality, if that is an issue, not where you rank. Who cares where you rank?
Oh man, that's one of my biggest pet peeves is clients that search for their keyword, like a particular keyword or like 5 keywords on their phone at home, and they determine the quality of the campaign by that. Here's the thing though. I think that we've done enough bitching. We've gone on for about 40 minutes bitching on all the failures of how we've not sold stuff. If we were in like an ideal scenario, right, and we wanted to, like, somebody out there was to create our dream sales business, what would that look like? And I think it is a really good question, because what does that look like?
So is it any sort of outsourcing sales, or is it specifically like if this was cold calling, if this was cold emailing, or is it just any?
I mean, this is for digital marketing, right? I don't like, ultimately, I don't care if you go door to door.
Yeah. So what I would like to see is a company that does cold calling. The reason being is that it's very direct. When you're doing emailing, not everyone answers their emails. I mean, how often do you email a company trying to hire them and they don't even answer their fucking email, let alone when you're trying to like sell them something? So a company that does cold calling, because you're going to talk to them directly, that's good at sales, obviously. So they're able to get past gatekeepers. They know how to like all charismatic on the phone. But what I see lacking is, because we sell complex services, it's not like we have a predefined SaaS product where it's just like, go to our website, sign up for whatever package works for you, and that's the end of it. It's much more complicated than that. Is there needs to be more working together with your client, and because of that, like, prices are probably going to go up. You're not going to be able to rely on 100% of your team being outsourced to the Philippines for like $3 to $5 an hour. You're going to have people that understand, or that are willing to learn how to understand what they're actually selling in the first place. But I think also there needs to be more collaboration between the agency or the freelancer or whoever and the company itself. And that means that you also have to qualify, if you're the business, you have to qualify your clients more, not just who's willing to pay you, but who's actually going to work with you. So for example, let's say with Google Ads, right? And I'll use Google Ads just because it's a lot more simplified than SEO, and there's a lot fewer moving parts. If I was to hire a cold calling company to try to generate clients for our Google Ads, what I would want is I would want to work together to make sure that what we were having the offer be is something that they could completely sell and offer on the phone. What we don't want is somebody to call and set an appointment, because if you are the business at the receiving end, who wants to get a phone call where they're like, hey, we want to do Google Ads for you. Great. I'd love to hire someone to do Google Ads for me. Tell me more. You need to schedule an appointment with our other person over here. You're on the phone with me right now. Why can't you? I mean, like, who wants to continue the conversation at that point? So you need to have an offer, which with like something like Google Ads, what I would do is have something where it's like, hey, what we want to offer you is a complimentary review of your Google Ads account, which means the prospecting has to be people who are already doing Google Ads, which means you might have to work with that company to show them how to prospect, or maybe you have to do the prospecting yourself and they're just doing the cold calling and maybe
Right.
you're handling prospecting, maybe hire a VA to do prospecting, or maybe hire a prospecting company, whatever the fuck you're doing. So I would have an offer like, okay, great. What we need to be able to get access to the counter to do a video or to create a PDF report, whatever it may be. And then that's a much more natural kind of phone conversation where it's like, okay, great. We're going on the phone. We know they're advertising on Google. We want to talk to them about, hey, we're going to give them a complimentary review of their account. And then the conversation basically goes, okay, what do we need? What information do we need? We need to know their customer ID number, and we need to know where to send this. So what they can do then is go, okay, we're going to review your account. It's going to, our lead strategist, our senior PPC manager, whatever the fuck, is going to audit your account. And they're going to create this document for you. They're going to create this video for you. It's going to take us if you can get us access to your account today, it's going to take at least 24 hours just so that we can make sure we actually have the time to spend on it. So let's jump on another call where you're going to jump on a call with our senior PPC manager. 24 hours now, does 3 p.m. tomorrow work, which means you have to have a connection, your calendar, set up Calendly, connected to your Google Calendar so it removes any times where you're busy. But basically that cold caller can look at your calendar, know when you're available, and then schedule the call on you. And it's natural there because it's very clear and it's very understandable why there would be a second step there, which is like, okay, great. They've sold them on the offer and they've booked that next call where it's not a call to then get their information to then try to sell them something. It's you've got access to their account. Now you've already created something for them, and you're just going through basically, here's what we found, here's how we can help you on that call. And I think that's a much more natural transition. And basically, kind of overall is just working together to make sure that the offer is right, and that's something that the the outsource company is able to actually sell. Cold calling is preferable because it's very direct. You can get in contact with someone right away compared to emailing, which is, there's so many issues with it. And I think it's just a matter of actually sitting down and working together. That does mean that there might be an entire setup process. That does mean that your entire first month of working together might be that they do 0 calls. And it's just a matter of, okay, great, let's learn together. But also there needs to be coordination of, here's the objections that we faced. How we don't understand this well enough to answer this, but we face these objections all the time and it's really hurt us. How, can you teach us, what do we say when someone says, we don't have access to our own Google Ads account or something like that. And then you kind of work through there. So it's going to be something that's a little bit more high touch. It's going to be something that's probably a little bit more expensive as well. There's going to be a delay. And the biggest con I see from people wanting to kind of build a model like this is that it's going to ostracize a lot of people, because the majority of people who are hiring outsourced sales companies are people that are afraid of sales. That they're afraid of reaching out, which we see all the time in our industry, because nobody likes sales. Most people in our industry don't like sales. Most people come from a technical background. They're more introverted, and the first thing that people try to outsource is like, great, it's day one. I want to hire someone to basically bring me clients. I just want to do the work. And the issue is that those people would not be qualified for a service like that because they're not qualified to understand enough on the sales process to actually help that sales team craft the right offer. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're creating a company, maybe it's a little bit more high touch, maybe it's a little more expensive, and maybe all these maybe 90% of people aren't qualified, then all you have to do is focus on targeting that 10% of people to actually get as customers as yours. Because I mean, like, I'd fucking hire a company like that, no problem, if they were actually to work with me that closely, because all that does is it takes time off my plate, and cold calling is not something that I have as a personal skill, but I understand how to sell my own services, and I'm more than willing to put together an offer that I know would work for that medium.
I really like that idea. I think that would work especially well for businesses that need a high volume of leads. So especially businesses that are able to, get on a bunch of phone calls and do a bunch of assessments and stuff. Our business, our agency, especially from an SEO standpoint of view, is far more geared now towards fewer, bigger clients. What my dream outsourced sales company looks like is one that gets like stuck in like a pit bull. And what I mean by that is that we work out a list of like 30 prospects, right? Of just like, we specialize in e-com, SaaS, and e-learning when it comes to SEO. So let's say 30 stores where they're doing well, we know they have money, but their site is dog shit, right? And instead of going for this high volume churn game, what I want this company to do is just to surround them with love from us, right? So I'm talking like we give them a really good budget to do this, and they do really low key stuff. Like, for example, using their LinkedIn or my LinkedIn or whatever, they start adding all the employees from that business, right? And then they start making like posts on that account about how they've helped businesses that are very specifically in that niche, right? They start targeting those employees where they've extracted the emails from like LinkedIn. They start targeting those employees with case studies on Facebook, right? And then they might invite them to like a free webinar of how we like help, like a case study webinar or something. And then finally, like, fuck it, let's give them budget to send them a gift box of something, right? Like the super high end approach. Because ultimately for me, the way that we work, and I know that you do too, because we share some of these clients, is you close one of those clients at 6-7 grand a month. That's what, 7 grand a month is what, 84K a year, right? If you close 1 out of 30, you're good, right?
Yeah.
But the likelihood is if they actually did that over 60 days, you'd probably have a couple of phone calls and you'd probably be able to close some of them. That's for the high end approach. For the low end approach, what I would really like to see is a multi-touch attribution model, especially though when we're looking at like Facebook ads and, for you, that'd be PPC, is just like, what is the number one way to get a small in the hands and eyes of a small business owner right now? It's either cold calling or it's a Facebook message to their business page. Every single business owner has either set that business page up themselves or has had their kid or neighbor's kid or whatever set it up for them, and that shit is going right to their mobile phone. And when we send them a message on Messenger that is not bullshit, that is of value, they're going to respond, and so again, there I'm thinking multi-touch attribution. Contact them on Facebook Messenger. If that doesn't elicit a response, give them a follow-up message. That doesn't get a response, it doesn't get read or whatever, give them a cold call. That's what I want to see. I want to see some real, and then obviously the cold caller has to be educated, right? And again, I love what you said about this whole concept of people not understanding that calling someone to arrange a phone call when you know nothing about the subject matter does not work. It just doesn't work. Like, you have to know. That's why, like, I don't like, even in proposal meetings, I don't sell. Like, I walk people through what we suggest we're going to do on the site, and then you take it or leave it. But because the stuff that we're proposing makes so much sense, they're like, yeah, of course I want that. That's great, right? And I kind of want that same approach to come from the cold caller, where it's like, hey, Jarod, I looked at your fucking yoga studio and I noticed you're not running any ads right now, but you have online classes. Did you know that if we did some like retargeting ads, you could probably get an extra 20% like retention? And here's some examples of ads that I mocked up for you. Let me send them to you right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's not hard. Man, somebody turns around and they have like a really good solid business like this, and they've got some proof that they've pulled this shit off. Take my money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's both not hard and hard at the same time. Like, it's not hard to show somebody exactly what they need to convince them that you're a good fit without hard selling. But it's hard to I think I fucked myself with this explanation. Basically, you don't need to have a super direct hard pitch sell to convince somebody to give you money or to give you a premium. It can be, which is something that you've just mentioned and I do as well, it can be just simply of like, hey, here's some examples of what I would do for you. Here's some examples of what I've done for other people. And the result of that, what do you think? And then a lot of people go, well, I fucking want that too.
Yep.
Right? I mean, like when I pull out case studies of like, here's a client, here's a graph where you can see for this injury lawyer, $1 million last year, which
Yep.
was a 60% increase from the year before. What else do I have to say?
Yeah. Well, and I think that the really important distinction here is I'm not looking, and I know that you aren't either. I'm not looking for a salesperson to close anything. I'm looking for a salesperson to introduce me to the decision maker that is ready to spend money. That's it. So Kapil actually made a really good point. I'm just going to put it on the screen here. We won't get to see everything because it's really long, but he basically just said that a quick point that he wanted to make is that the cold calling company also needs to get the right person, the decision makers that have the actual power to hire you, but they don't understand anything about Google Ads, yada 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 yada. While the marketing manager might not be interested in hiring you because of the existing contract or connect with the ad manager because he's managing the ads himself, so there might be a friction that. Look, I think that that's totally understandable, and oh, excuse me, can't stop burping. That's horrible. I agree. I think that the right sales company needs to do their homework, right? They need to understand who is the actual decision maker here. Like, is it a really big company? Like, for example, we have lots of clients that are so big that we've never spoken to like the CEO. We only speak to like the director or VP of marketing, for example, right? That's okay with me. In that case, they have the buying power. But then we also work with other businesses that we only work with the CEO, and he then tells their people what they want them to do, you know?
Right. So I think this goes back to which amazing point. Goes back to being able to work with that company to with the outsourcing company to handle objections, because yes, those situations are going to come up. Oh man, they told us that their marketing manager handles their gloves, which is something that I came up with, and I'll give you an example in a second. So that's one of the things where it's very important to work with them to go, okay, hey, we got this objection. Because we got this objection, we didn't know how to handle it. We couldn't, we move forward. We didn't really know what to do here. We're probably not going to be able to win these people back. But if we come against this again, what can we do? And in that case, in this situation, because it's so dependent, there's so many objections you might run into. What I would expect if I was hiring an outsourcing company that would take the time to do everything we've talked about, is I would expect to sign on for a 12-month agreement, because of how much of a commitment it is for their team to actually learn this. And if you're in something that's, I think if you're not working with a company that requires that sort of commitment, then they don't have the capacity. And it's not worth their time to do that, because if people are jumping off after 2-3 months, they're going to be so far in the red, especially at the beginning when that's where they're facing all those objections. That's just not going to be worth their time. But so speaking of something like that with the decision maker, I mean, that's something where if that company, if an outsourcing company that specializes in sales doesn't know how to reach the decision maker, I mean, I wouldn't hire them in the first place. That's kind of they should know how to do that. Or it's on me to educate them as to what type of people that they're going to be reaching out to. So for example, I work with a lot of law firms. Companies like those almost always have someone answering their phone for them. It's fairly rare, even for new lawyers, that you'll find that they answer their own phones, just because it's just not worth the time. They have to work on cases. And so if you can educate them on that, but they should know then, okay, great, we're going to face with a front desk person. It's going to be fairly similar to a lot of different niches. So assuming that they actually know what they're doing, they should be able to get past the gatekeepers. But when it comes to things like our marketing manager handles that, it's just a matter of them knowing how to handle that expectation. Because I've come into that, like, hey, our marketing manager, our internal person handles our Google ads for us. Okay, great. We're not trying to steal their thunder away, but we might have some ideas on how to improve what you're doing that they just might not know. We've worked with dozens of businesses in your industry. At the very least, if we hop on a call, if we do an audit of your account, you'll have a couple of ideas that you can use to implement. You never have to hear from us again. So, I mean, there's always ways to get around it. And I think it's just really important to kind of work with them to just get those objections handled. But it seems like there's kind of, when it comes to if you were to hire an outsourcing company that does things right, or if you were to create a company that wants to do things that in ways that's actually going to work, there's two kind of core elements of it. It's one, the company itself needs to be willing to take a practical approach where they are actually working with the client or the agency to understand what they're selling, how they can sell, how they can overcome objections, and not just take a blast it, a spray and pray approach. And on the client side of things or on the agency side of things, you have to work with the outsourcing company to make sure that the offer that you have is something that is reasonable for that company to sell, and that you understand how to go from that foot in the door to whether it's your core offer after that, or maybe you have a value ladder, which if you're not familiar, Google it and you'll find plenty of things. But you might have, okay, great, here's our free offer, here's our $99 offer. Then they do a $300 project with us, and then we sell them on $1,000 a month or whatever it may be. You just need to make sure that fits in there. So you need to be working together to make it really work, because we're not offering something that's simple. It's very complex, and there's going to be a ton of objections, and you need to have that kind of synergy between both the agency and the outsourcing company. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah. I think it's a very complex process that we obviously are, trying to oversimplify, because that's kind of our nature. But I do think that there is room there for a sales company, or at the very least an introducer company. Well, hey, I think, I really hope that by the time that we do the next one, which will probably be in a couple of days here, that somebody will like come on and comment and be like, "Fuck you! I have that business. Put your money where your mouth is." And that'd be pretty funny, and I hope that happens. Look, we're probably going to call a day right around here. We actually want to do a lot more of these, especially during the lockdown. Jarod and I have been talking about doing quite a few of these during the lockdown, and then spreading it out to a more regular roster. Please, if you loved it or hated it, leave us a comment and give us some advice on what you would like us to discuss. If you want us to do live demonstrations, we obviously, between the two of us, we kind of cover the full spectrum. Like we do content, SEO, PPC, Facebook ads. We do the whole lot. So we can probably do some kind of a presentation and show you how novice we really are at any time. Leave us a comment, and we'll take it from there. It's been real.
Yeah. For anyone that showed up, thank you so much. This was completely our first one that we did was completely unannounced. We got about 1,000 views on that, which is incredible. Feel free to check that out. But I mean, this one, still, like, the fact that people were just willing to show up, actually watch it, where they're able to actually provide a comment that actually proves that they actually watched it and they have an opinion. That's amazing. Thank you for listening to us rant and bitch about everything that's happening. And I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of these. This has been fun. I'm enjoying it.
Yes, sir. I can't wait. And there's plenty more rum to be drunk, so let's do it. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one, Jarod.
Thanks.